One thing that brings me a peace is that I understand that we all start out with the same kind of sin. Whether you have your parents in your life, or your parents were not in your life, that affects us. Your community, your support system. For a long time, I've teetered and wondered why I struggled so hard. And as someone with both of their parents alive, I realized even when I had both of my parents, I never had a support system. Well, after my grandfather had died, I didn't really have a support system. It wasn't even the bare minimum. What I realized, I was taking on too much weight. I was drowning with a hole drilled in my boat, and it was made to seem like that was by design, and it was something that would make me stronger, overcoming the issues. But I was simply taking on water for someone to feel better. My father, he was not prepared to have children. Every single one of his children uh, does not like him. They keep their distance. I included, but we still talk. Like there's not. He had self sabotaged himself, so we don't. At least I don't. But I know a few of the others have like a wishy washy relationship where we understand his actions aren't of malice, but they're more of like cowardice, where he's not willing to confront or actually change. He just waits and hopes and says, he's gotten to a point where he's so stagnant and we're so efficient on our own lives without having him there so long that we never really came to him anymore for any need. He's like someone who wants to be a part of the community but never chips in. But he also doesn't really ask for anything out of it. So that's why it's like we can still approach him and still kind of have a conversation just to kind of fill our own voids. I don't think it's out of malice. I think it's shame, pride, or ego, where he feels inadequate, and he had pushed that feeling of inadequacy onto the rest of his children. If I used to look at my parents in this form, that my mother was the more empathetic and emotionally stable, and my father was the more ruthless. But as I changed and grew, I recognized that more of my emotional control came from my father, and my mother's um, emotional, I won't say, the narcissism, the ego, um, the instability that came from my mother. I'm not um, taking away from my father's sins. There was actions that were cruelly calculated, that were designed, uh, that were ignorant, a blissfully ignorant, a hyper aware that he is not doing what he necessarily needed to do, but because we had survived, it became successful. It became successful. It was a okay and decent thing to do, and that really harmed me. Years after, we had conversations, and he was able to receive some of it. Maybe not all of it, but you could tell that the brain was thinking. there was just nothing that neither one of us could do. So to move on was the best and only solution. Now for my mother, she had given me missions, jobs. Like she was okay with taking care of me as long as I filled her with care and love. But she was not afraid of embarrassing me. It was all small, subtle things. She was actually very smart. She wasn't as loud or obvious as other narcissists, but it was there. And because there was a lot of people that ignored her narcissism. This is the biggest problem that I had found in therapy because we had gone to therapy multiple times. So she was okay with going to therapy, but only on her terms. And a lot of therapists flat out it just didn't address the narcissism or actually just normalized it. One of my therapists that I had was also a black woman, and instead of actually calling out my mother like she needed to, she just justified and accepted what my mother was doing, and eventually it became an enabling where I know what she meant, but instead of reflecting on herself and like the therapist reflecting on her own and maybe saying, "Hey, I have to remove myself, or maybe I have to look at this in the lens of saying that this is not acceptable behavior at all." She she had sometimes enabled my mother to and justified her narcissistic behavior. Eventually, it started to break up. Like she didn't realize it, but she was actually helping the division that she was supposed to mend. And what I had said was that was good. My mother had started to show her true colors. She wasn't healing. She wasn't receptive. She was controlling and overbearing. She was willing to say anything to not seem like the bad person on paper, to say semantics, treaties, and contracts that were void when she wanted to void them, but I could never void them. And I or anyone else would be at the mercy. What had happened is that she was successful in brainwashing my two sisters into never really going against her, while I was her greatest creation because I was the only male. She had bred a male to be strong and powerful to take care of her and to be efficient. And the problem with efficiency is that it's going to cut out anything that's not efficient. And I realized that she had made a creature that that doesn't think or that doesn't think that she's efficient. So I was trying to cut her off. But then I was also bred to protect her and to um, just tolerate her. So it came into conflict. So my mind could not wrap my head around. So it's like I'm supposed to not call out her inefficiency and take care of her, but it would be simpler for her to do this. This would be to aid her. Why can't she do this? She has to do this to live a good life, but she's actively refusing to live that good life. Why? What? How? All of this, it just kept going over and over again. People like that will be a part of your life. They can, or if you're not aware, and that had tore down my family for many years. And instead of trying to continue to pick it up, I've gotten to a point where I can accept we shouldn't have been together. The delusions of family is that because we are blood, we have to be that. Family is not a obligation. It is a privilege because a family says that everyone in that place respects one another. And it's not simply just children having to be obedient to parents, because it says, and even in the Bible, do not provoke your children to anger. And many parents still do, because they think that they're entitled to, even knowing that that it says in the scripture that many religious people would bring up, because they simply don't care. They don't need that, so they don't use that. My mother taught me a lot of things, and it made me aware of just how bigger the system is. It's not simply just, oh, she's a narcissist, and she's a bad parent. She had showed me the grander scheme of the world, and how it works, and how systems work, and how ineffective they are when you try to play the game of the oppressor. You will not liberate yourself. The final strike will never come from the master's tools. You will not free yourself by playing their game. Only with understanding and tolerance. But the tolerance goes to yourself first. To say that you won't be tolerant of their ignorance, that you're not going to be, you won't allow them to abuse you. My sisters are cases of people that want to be adults but still want to be under, that don't know how to engage past, that were made inept, and now that inadequacy is showing, their inability to actually see that they are overextended and or not working, or not firing, or misfiring in other places, that they have to do the tough work, that they're going to have to acknowledge that you know, not just moving out, but being separating yourself from your family. And if you say, okay, if I separate myself from my mom, then I have to separate myself from my brother and my sister and my support system. Well, if that support system is not providing anything, well, you'll have to, because you're not going to do anything. It's just going to be sitting in a lifeboat drowning together. And you'll say, well, that's family. Family requires me to die. I was born into it, but I can consciously leave. You choosing to stay there is then your own choice. I do not want to die. I don't see it as a necessary. I see the games that my mother is playing. I see the games that my sister and um, the rest of the family are playing, and even the therapist who tolerated my mother's bad behavior. I won't accept that. I will acknowledge and do what I think is right. I can see that I'm not always going to make the right decisions, but I will have the right intentions. If people come to me, and even if I am not in agreement, I will try my best to actually comprehend it. Many people say they can hear the words, but they do not comprehend what is being said. There's not a moment or a pause for reflection. There is just immediate um, replies. And if you stay around them too long, you will begin to do the same tactics as my sister, my younger and older, both do. They fail to realize that because um, it, because they have gone so close and gone so long, that they too can start to whip each other. That you are no longer simply just a passive victim, but now are an operator. You are an abuser. My younger sister believes that being by doing nothing, that she is absolved. She was the youngest, so she wasn't allowed to do many things when she was younger. Everyone had basically said this is the route that you're going to go. But now that she's older and people said, "Oh, I'm sorry, here's your freedom," she's like, "No, you owe me this." And as much as people tried to give her back to what she said that she's owed, she never felt fulfilled. Even if you gave her exactly the amount of money and the position, she would actually become her biggest hindrance. She would mope around. She would complain. She would feel ungrateful because, like, the truth is, it was never. There was a part that had come from us, from me. But as you've gotten older, now you are responsible for your own happiness. You didn't get it from the person that you thought you were going to get it from, or you should have gotten it from your parents. But now that you know that you didn't get it, it's your job to go grab it for yourself. But how do I do that? It looks hard. It looks difficult. It's easier to be angry and upset, or even refusing to hold people accountable. You think you can go grab it and then hold yourself, or not hold anyone accountable, but that will always negatively affect you because you'll always think about it. When you think about that person, you'll have them in a positive position when you should look at them in a more negative position, or you'll look at someone more negative when you should actually see them in a more positive light. Because what you're essentially doing is abandoning it, but not rectifying it. So the corpse is buried, but you still think about the person every day. You've never mourned, so you don't have peace. You can't move on. You're in a place of limbo. And only through pain and reform. It's devastating. That's the only time where you can really say, after you've gone through that, after you said, I've done everything I possibly could in this situation, and there's nothing else to do, no other logical conclusion, then you let them rest. With my older sister, it's actually going to be longer for her. She's been in it so long, and she had developed coping mechanisms that's only hyperextended her time, drinking and smoking, vaping, whatever to be submissive. But she's never truly submissive. She just refuses to use her power. And instead of actually ever acknowledging it, she wants to die. And around it, she wants to kill everybody. She will do things that seems counterintuitive. She will hurt the ones that are trying to help, and then go and parade as if no one is trying to help her at all. She will do things that help her career, and then immediately turn around and try to end her own life. Not in the way of just like a direct form, but to drink, to smoke, to do activities that have zero brain stimulation. Um, Boast or brag or cry or complain to strangers, but to actually never make the steps to change the position or place. Like, she thinks that she can have it all to still be this worst version of herself, and she thinks that removing herself from any spotlight is absolving her. Is going to make it so that she isn't the same as her mother for her children. But that's not true. In fact, she's just going to be another type that thinks that none of her actions are going to ever fall onto her children. So she can do whatever she wants. And she ignores that children will see that and normalize that and say that's an okay behavior. That won't strive for anything. That won't, she like, she'll just hand her kid the phone and say, hey, here's the phone. Do whatever. You're cool to do. I'm not going to monitor you. I'm going to just go live my life. And here's the phone. Here's the iPad. Here's the tablet. Here's the video game. And you'll figure it out. You'll be better because I'm not hitting you like my parents did. But you're abusing them, neglecting them, refusing to acknowledge that is just as important because touch, taste, learning, going around, making sure that someone is actually truly emotionally there. Refusing to acknowledge them was the same thing that had hurt her, and she's doing the same thing. I'm not going to liberate my mother. I'm going to liberate myself, and by doing that, I think that I hope that one of them sees and finally moves on. That they can free themselves by watching me say, it's possible. But by freeing myself doesn't mean that I'm solely focused on myself. I still am there. I'm present as I need to be. The things I need to get done, I do. But I do not overextend myself anymore. It's made me tired, doing just enough to not get by, doing just enough so I can go to sleep and feel content with my actions. There are days where I walk past the sink with dirty dishes and don't wash them. There are days where I don't take out the trash or I don't engage. For the most part, um, I don't spend too many days around my family, even though I have a room and perfectly acceptable to do so. Their abuse is not the same as others, where it's a lot less verbal. But I ignore my mother's passive aggressive tone. I know that she can't hit me or abuse me anymore, but I don't take advantage of my bigger stature. I say the words that I feel that are important, but then I also know when my words are wasted. I sit there as I do not allow anyone to disrespect me to my face. I will say something, and then I do not engage on grabbing somebody else to show my point. I used to try to convince. I thought that it was an easier solution if I show the logic that that it would just get resolved naturally. But I did not account for some things, some actions are not a a symptom. They are intentional. Narcissism is an intentional thing. It is people might not be born narcissistic. They might not be born uh, doing those things, but develop those things later on, or they it might be handed down like the tools, but how you utilize those tools. That's when you become the narcissist. Don't let just fancy words or how the terms have changed really change how it is defined. A narcissist is a narcissist because they actively choose. Someone who is doing the acts of a narcissist or show traits of narcissism is not necessarily a narcissist. They're just utilizing the same tools. But once you become aware those are the tools that a narcissist uses and how they use them. It is your job to try to avoid that. And that's a fine line. It is a little bit more nuanced because I recognize that a lot of the same tools and tactics uh, me and my mother share, me and my father share, and that can be complex because it goes. I share their face, but I'm not them, and I don't want to be associated with them. But that was my greatest sin. I tried to change my face, but I can't. It is not their face; it's mine. Like I've read a short story. I think I think I saw it animated about a son who was molested by their father, and they couldn't. Or I think the father abused like the daughter or someone else. It doesn't really matter, but the son hated his own face because he looked like his father, and he despised that. But the true pain to it is that you when I saw it because or yeah I saw it and read it. The pain came that you're beating somebody up, beating yourself up for something that you didn't do, and you are punishing the wrong person and removing a good person from this world, and you're helping that abuser continue to do what they do. You're because you're going through so much, and you're like, I hate this face. It's the face. It's the face. It's not the face. It's the soul. You tattooing it up. You cutting yourself. You removing yourself did not save anyone. In fact, it put more people's lives in jeopardy. You know the truth. You know what actions and what's intentional and what was an accident. What's malicious. You could be a warning. You could be a savior, but you choose to harm an innocent. And that's why you look at the face. That's your body even knows it. Your mind, because why do you feel this way? Because you are doing exactly what they were doing, hurting someone innocent. The only difference is you're hurting yourself, but it still leads to the hurt of others. That's a painful thing to say, isn't it? But I think that's the harder and more difficult struggle to say you're more alike than you think. But you have to acknowledge it's subtle differences. What is the difference between uh, the pull of a trigger? Before someone can pull a trigger before they see a gun, and someone after, and the only difference is a few seconds. But that few seconds makes all of the difference. Versus one who was intending to kill from the get go, and one that truly wanted to save somebody's life. A few seconds, a few subtle differences. What does it mean? What does it mean that you have those tools? Some tools you will have to walk away from completely, but some tools you will have to take and build and rebuild. There are houses that will need to be condemned, and there are houses that need to be used to shelter those that it may even have abused. But you have to I won't say have to. I implore you to think as rationally as you can and to do whatever is necessary. And sometimes it doesn't fill you with the greatest feeling. But at the end of the day, when it's done, it is done. To move past, to grow, to do what everybody wants to do. Live. And you are doing that. It's hard to accept yourself, to see your face, to see that action. But knowing that the greatest thing that you can do to them is to forget them. A narcissist is someone that wants to live. They themselves want to live forever, not through their kids, not through the money. They themselves want to live, but they're not. And they make it everybody's issue. They want to do their bad behavior forever. They want to live this way. They want to continue. They want to be a demon in hell because that's what a demon does. But I don't say they are demons. I say that they are acting like such because they're still human. And one day they're going to come to the realization that they can't. They might not ever apologize. They might not um, ever give you the satisfaction of, hey, I'm sorry and I'm going to change, I'm going to do. They might say words, but the truth is, don't you don't have to give them anything. You don't owe them anything. You don't even the pain. I wouldn't even give them the pain because I'm not giving them anything. That's for myself. That's my motivation. That's my fuel. That's my I'm turned that into a reminder to love somebody, to hug somebody, to kiss somebody, to that that um, that pain is deep. Like the trauma that I had, and I was talking to my girlfriend, and I cried. I cried, and I complained, and I moaned, and I let it out. There's no way to get it all out. At least not in one go. And multiple times you could see when I get frustrated and angry, and instead of like punching or just even ignoring it, I talk about it. And she sits there and she listens, and she could tell it bothers me, and it bothers me to even tell her. But she says, "You like," she says it's okay, and I know it's okay because she knows that I'm trying to work through it. She knows I'm not just sitting there complaining. I'm trying to do things. I'm trying to get things done. And I need to relieve that in a positive way. So I need to talk about it. And that's a painful thing. That's because it's so annoying and it just feels like it goes on. I'm like, why can't you just do right? Why can't you just do right? Why can't she do right by me? And I just go, she's not. She's not going to do right. And I know that. So I'm going to complain about it and relieve a little bit of the pressure, hold a little bit of that tension, and I'm going to do something else. And it's not going to be overnight. But I'm going to keep myself and I'm going to grow little inch by inch. And when I'm eventually not there, I'm going to win. I'm going to win not the game against her, but the game with myself. I'm going to be there. She's not. Or she could be wherever she dead, alive. That's not my concern. My priorities will be ones that I choose. There's not a beating this person. There was never a fight or a game against them. That's the thing that they had implanted into you. That's what they said. You're never going to escape me. I was never trying to. You never. I could never escape you because you never held me. You never owned me. You never had any hold. Anything that you said that was you. You might have done things to my physical body, but you never had my soul. My mother had said something that bothered me. She said, I release you of the. I said, you don't have that control of me. You never did. And I tried to help. I tried to help her by telling her this. Like, you don't know anything. You don't have these things. I said that you had always tried to define things because you yourself thought you're God. You thought that you simply by being older that you had all of this knowledge or tools, but you had no credentials, and it wasn't um, because you couldn't achieve them. You didn't want to earn them. You wanted to wear the lab coat to feel like you were a doctor without actually ever going to school. You wanted that same respect, but you never really set out to do anything. I don't look at her with malice. I look at her with sadness. In fact, sometimes I look at her with a, you could say, a somber disgust, but it's that is even changing as I'm growing, and I'm just like, I just pity her. I pity my father as well. I look at both of them. I look at everyone in this case, and I just see sadness. I go, this is extremely sad when you look at the bigger picture. She's a black woman in with this mindset of the enslavement. She has been enslaved so long. She's still thinks that she can use the master's tools to liberate her. She believes whatever she believes. I'm not gonna say what she believes because it frankly doesn't matter. But she's not living the life that she wants. She knows that. She complains very viscerally about that. She can't go anywhere, and she is just gorgeous herself. She feels that she's entitled. She feels that um, she'll never look upon me in any equal ground. She will always look at me. The highest that it will ever go is 49%. She will never look at me in a equal manner to herself. She like it's not even I need 49 or 50. She needs to look at me as a person, as a man. But she will always go, "You're my child first. You're mine first. I own you." And I look at her and I just go, "You never did, and you never will, and you'll always be miserable because of that." That's why I spite her so much. Not because I hurt her the most because with that mindset, because she refuses to let go of that. She will always hold on to it in this awkward angle and always hurt herself. And my sisters, especially my oldest, will they will get mad at me and say, "Why do you do this? You're hurting her." I say, "I'm not hurting. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to just stay silent, but I'm also not going to engage further." My youngest, uh, she will she will state it like a emotionally and educationally superior sort of way. You have to guide her. You have to do, and I say I don't have to do anything. If that's what you want to do, I don't even say kudos. I just say that's what you want to do. But if you're trying to get me to engage or cheer or clap or coddle, I'm not. I'm not going to give her some superficial um, award, some participation trophy. You weren't a good parent. And the reason I speak more of my mom than my father is because he simply just wasn't really there. So that action, so when I like actively just don't talk about him, it is the same thing. He wasn't there, so I'm not gonna talk about something that wasn't that, that I don't have anything to go on. There's no report because you didn't take the class. Like, should I say you failed as a father? You can't fail if you never actually participated. You did what you sought out to do. You set out to be a man in my life that is biologically related to me, but you have no allegiance. I didn't need you financially or emotionally or mentally. Like, I needed you, and I still do. So sometimes I still would reach out when I feel like it's in my best interest. But other than that, at his funeral, I might cry of what could have been and what should have been, or what I thought should have been. But I'd move on fairly quickly. I wasn't emotionally invested. Like, I knew that he cared in some capacity, but what else am I supposed to say? Like, oh wow, he's gone. Nothing about my life had really changed that dramatically. Just knowing that he's gone and I won't get those few bits. Yeah, that is disappointing, but it's you get what you return. So that's why I talk about him in this kind of like blase manner. It's not. I it's not that I'm not actively like trying. Like, I'm trying to pull something. There's not. There's not really much. Like, it just goes back on the same seven scenes, and then it kind of becomes boring to even talk about because it's just that minute. But with my mother, like one day they're going when she's gone, and whoever goes first, but like I assume in a natural state, those two will have to do the hardest amount of work because no longer are they going to have the scapegoat for their negative behavior because that's the delusion. You think all the negative things were her. It's actually a symbiotic parasitic relationship. You start to use those same tactics, but you say, I'm only using them because they're using them. But when they're dead, there's no mask or cover. No one's going to be like, oh, I can see your mother's tool. No, I can see your tools. They become you start to relabel them and they start to become yours. And you're like, no, they're not mine. They're my mother's. They're my mother's. Yeah, it's my mother's. It's not me. So you remove yourself from yourself. So she truly does own you. And for me, I looked at the tools and I said, if I'm going to take these tools, I'm going to do actually what you would say is a stranger type of tactic. I'm going to double down and dive deep into it and say, these are my tools. These are my tools. I own them. I'm using them. They're mine. And I'm going to put my spin on it. And I'm going to say, hey, they might have been this person's tools at one point, but they're mine. And if I choose to discard the tool, that is my choice. If I choose to pick it back up again and use it and sharpen it and dull it, that's my choice. My mother had failed because she had tried to define me. She had she had defined herself, got bored because she said, I am the queen, I deserve all of these things. And then just saw me as someone who didn't choose. I was like, I don't think I want to play that role. No, you have to play that role because you're forced to play their game, like a kid on the park that is playing their own game and forces you to play it with them because they out of force of threat. But then when you get old enough and big enough and realize I don't have to play the game, I don't want to play your make believe royal hierarchy where you're the queen and everyone's below you. I don't want to play to your rules. I agree, you're the queen. I'm moving on, and I'm gonna play in the park. and she's not gonna like that. She never liked that about me because I'm not denying what she thinks. I'm just saying that she can think whatever she wants. I'm not participating in it. She's the queen. It's no skin off my bones. I'm not going to be. She's not a queen, and I'm going to prove it. Like no, let her be queen. Um, and then when inevitably she comes back, she says, "Well, I'm queen." I'm like, "Okay, queen. Yes, I'm the queen. Yes, and you got to do what I say." No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. Well, I'm going to hurt you. Okay, I'm still like, you're going to spend more time trying to hurt me, and eventually you're going to get tired. Well, I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you unless you say that I'm queen. I'm like, I could say that you're queen. I'm not going to act like it. You kill me, there's no one else to ever indulge you with your delusions. You're not strong enough to do that to anyone else but me. You kill me, that's it. And I don't win, but I don't lose. Like I die being me, and I'm okay with that. I'm more okay with dying free than ever living under your oppression. She's literally living embodiment of the slave master's rule, of chattel slavery, up to the religion, to the mindset, to the beating, to the hierarchy. That's what white supremacy does to a person. But I'm saying that I, as a black person, have moved on from trying to prove myself. And I think that you forget, I think a lot of people forget this fundamental truth that black people move on, and that's not a bad thing. We are the only group of people that is forced to move on so quickly, and that's our beauty. It's that's the thing that has always inspired me. Because yes, as painful as it is, we do not deny the humor, and we do not skip out on doing the task. But once the task is done, it might seem like we're lazy because then we're sitting around just chilling until the next task. Until someone's like, "Oh, you're sitting around. I'm going to abuse you. You're lazy." And they, instead of actually seeing what we've done, they just attack us, and then we're like, "Okay, guess here we go again," and let everyone else basically move us along the plot. What type of abuse next? What thing that we have to overcome? And if it doesn't kill us, then we say, hey, we'll get a load of this guy. Oh man, this one was kind of weak, wasn't it? Oh, and we're not mad because it's like a game of tag. It's like, oh, you're out. Okay. Eventually, I'm gonna be out. Eventually, I'm not gonna want to play the game again, or I'm not gonna be there anymore. Like death is not like death is life. We are living death. We are dying. We're actively dying. When we are quote unquote dead, we live forever. That is us. That is when we are defined. That is the book that has the end. I'm forever ambiguous until I die, and then I'm always defined. You'll always be able to look back and say, yeah, that was me. Yeah, I wouldn't have done that. There's there's no more activity that I could do, so I would have never done that. Not well, while you live, you're always ambiguous. While you live, there's always the chance that you can do something. But when you die, that's it. It's set in stone. You wouldn't have done this, and you think that, oh, I don't want to die because I want to live a certain way. I want to be a certain way. I want to do these things. Like I say, do it. Try to, like, they lived being that because they had the mindset of it. You know, realize that I never. You don't have to join the military and have somebody put on a uniform and say, okay, now you're a soldier to be a soldier. Because you had to have the mindset of a soldier before you ever enlist into anything and say, this is something that would help me solidify and prove to myself that I'm a soldier. Um, because again, the mindset of a soldier is not when you swear in, not when you finish boot camp. It is before you even before all of that even happens. The day that you said, "Yeah, I'll do that," and I know the task, I know the duty, and I still will do that. I agree. That is what a soldier is. And then you go in, call your recruiter or whatever. You say yeah. But if you never actually agree that's what a soldier does, if you say, like, and you do, and you don't live that life, you don't do what you think is what a soldier does, then you're not a soldier. There's people in the army that aren't soldiers because they don't believe in what they're doing. They don't care to do what they're doing. They don't. Um, they would not do the entire whatever they needed to do. They might survive, they might skim, but they're not living. Surviving is not living. It's not being. I might rephrase that later on because I'm going to end this soon. But that's it. Hopefully people can get my gist. But to go back to my mother and to kind of wrap this up, she doesn't own me. She never will. She never can. And the same with everyone else's parents. It's becoming a better day because it's a lot of struggle. There's a lot of issues. There's always going to be something. Yes, there's this kind of want that you want them to acknowledge or you want them to come back in life and say, I was wrong and kumbaya. But the truth is, when that happens, it doesn't really ever feel good anyway. Because for the most part, it's not really sincere. And if it is sincere, they'll do the work to make sure you know it's sincere. I should never have to walk up to someone else's place to get an apology. You should never, like, if you really care, you would hear the wishes and the desires that I have. If I cut myself off from you and then you say, "Oh, now I realize the error of my way," and you track me down to say, "Hey, I'm sorry now, so we can go back." You didn't learn your lesson. You didn't really know this person. Sometimes the best apology is the apology that you say and you live. No, it's not sometimes. That is. You live and deal with the person's wishes. And yeah, you're going to have to live with what you've done. You're not going to go back. You're not going to fix it. You're not going to add nothing to it. You're going to sit there and say and move on. You're going to tell your kids, or you're going to tell the people in your future, the ones that you actually figured out the lesson and heal and have fun and say, yeah, I did these terrible things. I understand it now. There's not going to be a chance of reformation here. Not in that way. That's what you're gonna have to live with. You might feel guilt or shame, but in fact, you're not. Like when you actually you apologize and you accept, you're not beating yourself up anymore. You're not beating up anybody. But those that are too eager to get an apology do not really want to. Those who are too eager to apologize to escape consequence, they're not. They're not sincere. It's saying that, hey, whatever that consequence, whatever that punishment I will take, I feel like you are so worth it that I'm willing to take anything. I know it's going to be painful. And if I said I never want to see you again, you're willing to take that as the punishment too. You're saying, no, no, just hit me, just cut me, just whip me, just abuse me. The same as black people. It's like, just here, take the money. I stole a jewel that was worth $1 million, sold it for $1 million. You have a $2 trillion company. Like it was, you stole this, took the money, and now I don't even have the history. When I look at that jewel or look at anything, I don't have a history. You took not only um, what was not yours, what was someone else's, because it's no longer, well, it no longer belongs to you. You took something of great significance to that person for your own gain, passed it down to your lineage, and now you could say your kid is trying to give it off to me, or trying to give this. Like I'll take it back. Like don't get me wrong, but you're not doing me a favor. You're not doing anything positive. You're just setting it right. You don't deserve any applause or cheers. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell the painful history of what you did. I'm going to remind people that you had took this, sold it off, built your company, your kids are set. When if I was treated like an adult, I could have probably sold it off. Yeah, it was my choice. Maybe I would have sold it off and did exactly what you did, but I never got the chance. Um, so you're not a good person returning that. You're just rectifying that. That's not what makes you a good person. Um, owning up to your mistakes, but actually doing so. You're not a good person by what's it called, saying what you did, how you did someone wrong, like bullied somebody, and doing that for clout, or doing that for any other reason than just to admit like with your mistakes, your errors, and how you've learned. There are people that bully others, and because they know that they can get 15 seconds of fame, will go on there. I bullied her. I did this. I know it's wrong. Okay, why are you saying that? Why are you trying to embarrass them again? You're trying to put them in a position to like, yeah, confirm weirdo behavior. I don't try to appease to losers in a harsh tone type of way. That's how I'm gonna say it. I don't try to like go to their level or sink low or to be some like it's not because I'm like, oh yes, I am better and I have to make myself feel better. I just genuinely like my mother, white supremacist, racist, big anti-black. That to me it's just like I don't see them like on my level. It seems like a low tactic. It's like something that's trying to drag me down. I'm not denying that something hurts, but it's just like it's so frustrating that I literally just have to leave it alone. I'm hurting myself more, and if it's defeat, I'll accept it. I'm like, okay, I've been defeated. They want confrontation. I don't care to do that anymore. It is saying I did everything that I could logically and reasonably to change this, to make myself feel better, and I can't. So I accept that I lose. I'll be a loser. I'll be whatever term, but to myself, I'll be like, I lost. I lost. You know what? You could lose and not be a loser. I lost. I'm not a loser. You if you want to call me that, if you want to brag for the next 50 years about how you had beaten me, defeated me, how you owned me, you go ahead. And people will listen to that. And anyone that I would like to engage would listen to the story and see that you're not really a good person to hang. And they might come out and seek me, and they'll be like, "Hey, you sound like good company." And they might come across me and say, "Yeah, I've been hearing weird things about you." And I'll be like, "That's cool. What do you want to know about me?" And that would be a more interesting tale. There's always someone to speak negative about you, even your own parents. One day, I don't hope to, like, yeah, I hope they change their mind. I don't hope to change their mind. I don't hope to change my mom or dad's mind. I still acknowledge them as my biological parents, but if anyone ever asks me, like, I'll tell my version, my interactions with them, and I'll tell it honestly. I'm not going to say it as a way to bash them. I'm going to say just the truth, the authentic. I'm not trying to do this for clout, and I don't need to explain it any further than that. I say that all of this is just important to know that it takes a long time, at least for me. Even if it takes 2 years, it takes a long time. Everything that I've ever experienced led up to me needing to do that. I've experienced a lot of pain because I didn't confront my parents. And you're like, well, how was I supposed to confront them? I was 15. Well, then you weren't meant to confront them, or you didn't. As soon as you're aware, you have to. I, as soon as you're aware, that's when you think of an action. But there's always going to be a consequence. Well, I wasn't strong enough to win that battle. Then you weren't. Death is not a sad thing. In fact, to die is to live. To say if that will cause me the end, quote unquote, then it was a good run. That's the game over. If that's truly how it is. But there are many times where there are times where I'm like, okay, well, that will be the end of the relationship. They'll kick me out. Am I dead though? No. Like, it'll suck. I'll be homeless. Yeah. But I'll be free. When black people had run away from child slavery, they knew that they would not have their homes, that they lived their entire life. It wasn't their home. They would not have the shelter that they lived their entire life. They would not have the clothes or the access to food. They won't know who is friend or foe other than those that had escaped with them, if they had escaped with anyone. They won't have any other thing, but they'll have their freedom. And with that, they can build their freedom. Some ran away even without their feet or a foot chopped off. They would have a foot or a limb or a disability for the rest of their life, even if they were only to live 3 months. That is better than living under oppression. They lived as themselves. You might not like that. You might say, no, I can't do that. Then no. There are those that chose to stay and said, yeah, no, I'll be here. And those black people were free too. It said, hey, I know there's something out there. I can't leave. I have people to protect here. Those that remained with a chain around their neck was free because their soul was free. They led. It's not one or the other. It's not all. It's a your soul is the only thing that defines you as free or not. Well, I won't say the only thing, but there's a physical enslavement. There's a physical chain, but then there's the soul. And I like to think that if you don't have your soul, if you don't believe that you're free, you're not free. If you're always in turmoil and anger and sadness, then what's making you angry? If you can't even decide or figure out, you can't talk to yourself, you can't figure out what would make you feel better. You do things that forces you to grow numb, or I would say in a state of I guess unconsciousness, because that's what I call like drugs. It's like you're in a state so bogged out of your mind that you don't really even know what's going on. You couldn't even tell someone what you actually experienced. You just like, oh, it was a great experience. What happened? I don't know, but it was a great experience. That doesn't really sound that interesting. Are you gonna do it again? Yeah, because like I can't get that feeling out of my body. I'm like, okay, and then you're addicted. It's not saying that you shouldn't use medication, but I'm just um, I'm just pointing out the difference. Like drinking and smoking, that's not really free. Like if you choose, hey, I want to smoke a cigarette today, and I'm like, okay, that was a good cigarette, and I don't want to smoke any more cigarettes. I say that person's free. That one, the person did a choice, decided to do something, and can control themselves. They knew it was addicting. They knew the risks. They knew the pros, the cons, and they did it, and they made a conscious choice. Um, as long as you're prepared for the consequences and that the potential hazards, that is still your choice. Live your life. But I'll finish out with this. I'm free. I don't need to prove to anyone else that I'm free. I do actions that are necessary to keep me alive, but you'll never need, oh, you'll never free yourself using the master's tools. The tools might be the same, but how I utilize them, and I take claim to the tools as my own. The tools that I use. If someone says that they're going to take back every single tool, let them have it. Let them physically have the tools. But they'll never have the skills that you bring to the table, that experience that you had with those same tools. And when you come, like, there's going to be a million hammers. There's going to be a million sickles or scythes, or even if they somehow hoard all of them and say, I manufactured all of them, you can never touch a single one that I've ever crafted. Your memory and your touch on how you crafted those tools. And your soul will always design something more efficient or better, at least for you. And the way that you utilize it will always complement it. And you might come up with ideas and new. Oh, well, this tool was great, but I think I can make it better. And here's my design. Here's my invention. It will always create art. It will always create industry. It will always create something that can never be claimed. The boundless human spirit of a free man. Black people have always been the freest people, to me, because we can be serious, we can be funny, we can see trauma, we can laugh. Black people have always had the highest potential to me. That does not mean that okay, since we're black, then we all automatically become free and have we still have to go through the education, we still have to do the steps. It's just more access. it's we already have the haters. We already have the people that are supposedly the motivation. We got the motivation right there. And we've seen others that have bankrolled off their tragedies and sat there and undermined ours. And I look upon them and I say, I'm not going to do that for us. I'm going to say that was sad and unfortunate, but I'm going to also move on. I want to forget slavery. I won't by knowing it, I can also forget it. By knowing it and saying I know what it is, I know what happened, I know I will I will actively set to forget it. And saying I want to also know black empowerment, human engagement. I want to know what love is. I want to know my own story. I'll add to it a option where someone says it's not just going to be black trauma, but it's going to be black love and black, I don't know, just anything. That's what I set out to do with these. With that being said, I'm done.